I was unprepared. I was still unprepared. Hello, we're live. We now have a live screen for anyone who came in early enough to see it. Yeah. I don't know. This really throws me off, knowing that we're actually live, and then it's like just click the button and have it all ready, and then we're up and we're here. And we're trying to get more professional. We're trying to title the show, although the title isn't updating. It bothers me. It says it like in the edit. It's like it has it saved, but it still says it's the one about the season of the Drifter. That's frustrating.
Well, I mean, I guess
technically it's still the season of the Drifter.
Yeah, but it's the one about the light and the dark, and I want people to be able to see that and know that, because that's what this episode's going to be all about. We're going to be talking about the light and the dark, and it's very upsetting that Guardian can't be here. He was supposed to be here, but he's sick, so he's unable to join us. Because some new stuff came out, and it really opened a lot of doors. Like there's a lot of ways the future of the game can go. The concept of Dark Guardians always gets thrown around, like people want it so badly. I'm not in favor of the idea of Dark Guardians. It feels like very odd and out of place and just doesn't work. But maybe that's because most people, when they say Dark Guardians, they're like, it would be awesome if it's like World of Warcraft and we have the good guys and the Horde. I don't know what the good guys are called in World of Warcraft. I don't play it.
Is it not the Alliance or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, close enough.
Yeah, I think it's the Alliance and the Horde. I don't know. But yeah, I feel as though the things that have happened, we got a lot of lore.
Yeah.
Like we got I mean, how many new books did we get in the last update?
For Every Rose of Thorn, Man with No Name, Ecdysis, Dust, Stolen Intelligence.
6 books. Warlock Honor.
The Warlock Honor. Honor.
I'm gonna say Honor.
Honor.
Honor?
Who did you pick?
Who did I pick? I'm with the Vanguard.
Okay, well that's why. Drifter calls her out, like by name. There's some warlock Honor trying to kill me.
Oh.
That's the only reason why I'm correcting you on it. Like I know that's actually how it's pronounced.
I mean, I don't think the Drifter's pronouncing it properly.
Oh.
Honor. I mean, it's AU, so that's like O, right?
That's how I thought it was Honor.
Yeah.
But it's now Honor.
That's annoying. I don't know what I did there.
That's not your bit.
Lol. So, yeah, so we got 6 new books. There's so much stuff. Like, thanks, Volts. That's helpful.
I'm just like what do you guys think? I don't want to take this too far with me just going off on tangents. What are you guys thinking about the light and the dark and where we can go from it?
I think so. Just before we went live, I was kind of saying, are we going to talk about everything? Because like, so much. There's been so much stuff. I don't even know how to say that. It's just like a lot of our understanding about the world of Destiny, in terms of the good guys and the bad guys, has kind of been turned on its head.
Yeah. A lot of the good guys were bad guys.
Yeah. And a lot of the, like, I mean, I haven't really trusted the Drifter since his arrival. But actually, I don't necessarily think he's a good guy, but I don't think he's a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout all of the history of the lore, we've kind of seen Shin Malphur as this shining beacon of, like, this is the actual good guy,
mm-hmm.
And now I mean, I'm not so sure. I mean, I still think he's a good guy, but he's not this. He's not this paragon
Hmm.
that we thought he was. Um, and you know, I feel like it's kind of thrown a lot of ideas that I had out of the window, in a way. And there are some kind of crackpot theories. You know, I mean, okay, I don't mean crackpot theories. Like a long time ago, when we first started getting the Shin Malfa, Dredgen Yor, Jaren
Hmm.
Ward cards, you know, there was enough gaps in the story that people started coming up with theories that actually turned out not to be correct. But
Hmm.
at that point, there wasn't enough proof to say either way. So there were things like, you know, Dredgen Yor is Jaren Ward, and all these kinds of things, and I almost feel like that set us up for the fact that none of those theories panned out. Almost led us to this kind of situation where, you know, I remember. I think I said this. I can't remember when I said this, but you know, somebody said in one of the Discord channels, um, that in the cutscene with the Drifter, that was Shin Malfa holding Thorn, and everybody kind of said, "Ha, that's really dumb." But you know, I still don't. I mean,
It absolutely isn't.
it absolutely isn't. But it isn't as ridiculous as it was. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
So, since we're actually on that topic, that cutscene, the invitation to the Nine that we get when we see the vision of how the Drifter proved himself worthy, it shows his ship, the Derelict,
Mm-hmm.
and it does not have the hull, the thing that he's towing.
Mm.
So when Shin Malfer comes and meets the Drifter, he's got that thing towed. So I mean, like that right there completely
Mm-hmm.
cuts it
That's
out
true.
that it can't
Yeah.
be Shin.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just think, you know, but the you know, when we saw the publicity shots,
Mm-hmm.
the reason that a lot of people threw it out is because we said, oh well, Shin would never be wielding Thorn.
Mm.
So while you're right, it's still, you know, it's definitely not Shin. There are other things that rule that out. I still kind of feel as though, I don't know, things certain doorways that were closed are now open. If that makes sense.
Mm.
Well, listen. I mean, they're doing a good job of trying to cast doubt on your favorite characters.
Mm,
So they want to lead you into this position where you have to make a moral judgment going forward. So they want to have some sort of an internal struggle with the audience.
mm-hmm,
You align with the Drifter originally, knowing that he's kind of a shady character, and then you realize, oh, hey, maybe he's not so bad. Because the best way to tell a story is to show the humanity within
mm,
a character that may be on the fringes. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can show, hey, you know, it's like Breaking Bad. You know, you can see a humble man turn evil and realize that pride was eating him up the entire time. Or, you know, it could be the opposite, where you could see a horrible monster at the beginning become human at the end. And it's just a way to introduce stories. Like everybody who picked the Vanguard might have thought, and, you know, I don't want to make this about like morality or anything, but just, you know, just to kind of cast it in an easy, more simple way. People pick things based on their understanding currently within the lore, or what they know to be, you know,
Mm-hmm.
good or bad, or whether they want to be
mm,
good or bad, or whether they want to be, you know, fundamentally right or wrong, you know. And so I think we are understanding throughout the story, just setting this up, we're understanding throughout the story that not everything is meant to be okay. And your heroes that you have, they're flawed, and you have to understand that, you know, some of them may have come from some dark beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got these dark people that are coming in, and you've got to realize maybe they're not so bad. It's like when we first met Eris, we didn't know if we were going to be able to trust her. When she was out on the outskirts of the tower, she was hanging there forever before they allowed her to enter the tower. And we realize, oh my goodness, maybe she's really helping us.
Hmm.
Maybe she is aligned with the tower. So that's my point. We're all in a state of doubt about everything that we've learned so far, and I think that the majority of that is intentional.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that since the very beginning of Destiny, like mystery is one of the most important kind of concepts, one of the most important like philosophies of the game. Um, there's a constant sense that you're not given the full picture, and that's good. Like shows like this wouldn't exist if we just knew everything from the
Hmm.
start, because like you could just read everything and that's it. You know every detail.
Yeah.
But there's so much mystery. Like even like we've been given there's so many questions that have been answered. We in the new books we learned about like
The nine.
yeah, so much about the nine. But about A118, like that
Three.
was
Right. That was a pretty good
A113.
one.
I apologize. That
Yeah,
was that was
A113.
that was something that like I didn't really have any expectation that would
And
be.
and
Well, and
the
then
red box.
and
Yeah.
yeah, red box.
That was
Hmm.
really
Well, and
cool.
then there was just finding out simple things like Shax is a warlord,
Which was
Hmm.
what
and
I was
it's
gonna bring up. How you were
Hmm.
saying like some people start bad and then they become good. Like you look at Shax
Hmm.
today. You're like he's a hero of the city. He fought at Twilight Gap. If it wasn't for him, we might not be here today. Like all these good things. But he started as a warlord, as like a
Yeah.
very bad thing.
Well, but I know I feel like we always talk about like the warlords are bad,
I'll be right
and
back.
I feel like I'm always saying, like, but are they really? All of the Iron Lords pretty much started as warlords. Um, I
well,
don't really.
I think the moral dilemma is what we know about warlords is they were a collective group or gathering of uh, their own interest, and they weren't
Mm,
working towards a common humanity, collective humanity. They weren't working towards building and rebuilding what was already here. They were just more interested in collectively surviving. So they wanted to build up their own little hubs of warriors. There were warlords. They were lords of war. They had
mhm,
to
mhm,
build their own little substance, and then they were infighting and in struggle. But then
mhm.
when the Iron Lords united, that was the very first symbol of getting back to um, humanity, right? That was the first collective idea that, hey, we need to think for the greater good. And so they went
I
out trying to recruit.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel as though like if the warlords, I don't think that the warlords are such a simplistic group that they only existed for self-interest. I think that the warlords, um, you know, they. I'm not saying that they were purely selfless. Oh, were you muted there? Hello.
Yeah, I was muted. I was trying to say it's easy to feel like you're the good guy when ultimately you're helping people.
Yeah, I think that's the
Right.
thing. Like I have no doubt that the warlords were ultimately helping some people. Like it's just that they weren't really. If you look at feudal society, if you go back to our own kind of histories, like
Hmm.
especially European
Mhm.
history, but the same all over the world. Like lords didn't see themselves as oppressors. They saw themselves as part of the government. The fact that they weren't elected was not really something like democracy in the form that we know it today didn't exist. So this idea that you would have a king, you would have lords, and you would have a structure that was purely hereditary is, I mean, it's fundamentally unjust.
Mm.
But at the same time, nobody in that system would consider themselves evil, or even they probably didn't even consider themselves oppressors.
Yeah.
And yet that's
Right.
exactly what they were. And I think it's the same with the warlords. They looking back with our current history within the world of Destiny, the Iron Lords wanted to shake up the status quo, give non-risen individual freedoms, which
Is that
the
kind of like
Iron Lords.
socialist idea?
Well, I don't think it is. I think socialism. No, I mean, if you, it is a move to the left, but democracy isn't fundamentally socialist.
No,
It can be,
no. But I
and
mean,
it's the
like even
same
now,
with.
it's not really the city's not in a democracy. It's more in
No,
what is it like a monarchy?
I don't think it's a monarchy exactly, but you have.
It's like a monarchy without a king.
It's like maybe an oligarchy or something. You have.
That's when like rich people own.
It's a small group of people that have control. It doesn't have to be rich people,
Oh,
but it's it. In this instance, I would say that the factions and the vanguard and formerly the speaker, they're not elected as such.
No.
You have groups like
or
the
rather,
factions
they
are.
elect.
Yeah, exactly.
They do
It's
the
like
electing.
there are a group of people that are regarded as like the leaders, and you do have changes to that. You have like shifts in the status quo, like
Lysander.
future war cult. Yeah, exactly. Or you have an instance where like Cade's death seems to have caused quite a change in the status quo of the government. The speaker's death as well caused a massive change to the structure of the way that group functioned. But there's still, as far as I'm aware, there are no elections in the city. It's kind of similar. When you have a like martial law, where you have a military, that the military kind of enact government in order, with the aim to protect the people. But I mean, it doesn't always go that way. But that's similar to what's happening in the tower, or what has happened in the city, where essentially the Guardians govern the city, and there are a group of Guardians who were elected as kind of leaders. Elected maybe is the wrong word, but chosen as leaders. And then there were a group of representatives from the city that the Guardian leaders have effectively allowed to have power. Anyway, all I'm trying to say is, even the current system is probably not totally
Ideal, yeah.
just by today's standards. Whereas looking back, the warlords are even more unjust. But I think that's just a matter of history and perspective.
That's why I wish Guardian was here. I don't play Anthem, so I really can't give much insight on it. But like I've talked to people who play it, and in Anthem they essentially have their city. It's like Fort Tarsus, I think, and they're not the only city, which really bothers me. Like, why aren't there multiple last cities of Guardians? And like, they can be peaceful. They don't have to be warring with each other. But like, why is there only one? That just doesn't seem natural.
Well, it's hubbed around the traveler, so the people that are
That's true.
the people that built the city, and the people that are aligned with one another for that cause are very much the tower, the city, and their roots are under the traveler. I mean, there could very well. I mean, there are other light bearers and people out there, and they might have their
Well, I
own.
meant on like a grand
towns.
scale, like how the city is, like a massive
Yeah, I think-
collection of people,
well-
not just settlements.
I think just from the little things that we've learned in the lore going through Destiny throughout the year, I think we've understood that they tried that some of them tried that, but they were ultimately torn down by our enemies that are out there, and so that it wasn't just a mass movement. I mean,
Well, I mean, now
it
would
wasn't-
be.
it wa-
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying it wasn't like when the darkness came and there was an exodus, right? We had to get the heck out to try to save what we had left, or we could, we could save what we could, right? It was kind of this firefight to get out and try to save what we can.
Mm-hmm.
When light was restored and people were risen and there was a lot of infighting and a lot of enemies, there was just the very basic survival necessities. And so you had towns, you had collective groups, you had warlords, you had the Iron Lords emerging from all this. But I think a lot of them knew that the city was being built, and there was the movement of those people to the city to build that. But there's very much still people spread throughout that haven't brought themselves to the tower. I mean, for them, it might still be somewhat of a dream, We don't know because they haven't really elaborated on all of those stories. But what we've learned from Ghost going throughout the solar system and bringing back intel, we've kind of had all these collective little stories and fragments of other people's lives that either were trying to get to here or just knew about it or, just didn't care.
Yeah. So then, one of the big reasons settlements originally failed, like, I don't know why the city worked when nothing else did. Like, maybe the Traveler, maybe there was just more people, maybe there was better leading people, whatever it might have been. One of the big reasons that a settlement would fail would be the dangers of that world, where it's like, I think in the book, The Man with No Name, they mentioned that, the warlords would just leave them for the Fallen. They would like take all their supplies and leave the people for the Fallen, and that was a fate considered worse than death. So, do you think that now, like, when the Cabal are crippled, the Fallen are crippled, the Hive don't seem to have much presence on Earth now? Maybe they do, and we're just not seeing it. The Vex have never been seen on Earth, and so like Earth is really like, it feels like we've almost taken back the majority of Earth. Like there might be like little cells of like Fallen or Cabal or Taken, but it really feels like the tables have completely turned. Like, oh, how the turntables, man.
Right. Yeah, I think there's something scary about that. The fact that we've never had a Vex threat on Earth. And I'm wondering if something's going to be built upon that. And maybe it has something to do with the Traveler's presence. Because one of the things we know about the Hive being on the moon and them stealing a fragment of the Traveler at the very beginning of the game was that very much helped give them an introduction to Earth. That wizard came from the moon. We had learned that the the Hive had some sort of paracausal tie to open a little portal here. They were trying to remember they were trying to resurrect Crota on Earth.
But I mean, if you go back before Dark Below, there were Hive seeders in the Cosmodrome.
Yeah,
that's the connection between Earth and the moon. Really, I would say. Like
they mentioned they gave the moon to the Hive. Like the Hive were definitely on Earth like earlier on at some point, and it was just whatever the fight was. It like kind of settled with, you get the moon, we'll have the Earth.
Which seems fair,
And now, just speaking about the moon, Luna is also quarantined.
Yeah.
That's 2
cool.
original Destiny 1 locations that are just quarantined. Like, it feels like so out of place. Like, I wish that Bungie led with this, like in Destiny 2, where they were like, I don't know how they can handle that. Like maybe like in the opening mission Homecoming, like the PA system was just like running on a loop. Reminder, Luna, Old Russia, the Sinking Shores, like all these locations have been on quarantine. Just something like that. So people are like, oh wow, what happened? Like whatever locations they decide.
But I'm not sure. Is the entire moon
The
quarantined?
Hellmouth. The Hellmouth is
Yeah,
quarantined.
because in the fragment entry from Stolen Intelligence, which I think is what you mentioned.
Probably.
As Sean Vertigo says, there are lots of Guardians who've made their home on the moon,
Yeah. Well,
and they are the ones that keep the
they are the
number
like
hive.
protectors of the quarantine.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that because I think I agree. It's interesting. Destination is quarantined, but it's not the entire moon.
Just real quick, we're also.
But I mean,
we're
it's
also
not the
getting a
entire
little bit
Earth
more-
either. It's just the locations
it's
it's the locations that we've been to are seemingly being like, okay, well, no one can go there again, and it feels like there's a reason.
The Hellmouth,
Right.
the Cosmodrome, the Plague Lands, I know are kind of the same location, but yeah.
We're also getting a little bit of insight into the Vanguard patrol. We're finally seeing a few items drop and being brought to the world of Destiny that kind of tell us a little bit about, what we already knew was out there is that we have authority in the city, and we have authority that works for the Vanguard, the police of the the Vanguard, which is kind of neat. I thought that was a neat little thing to drop as well. So they're bringing back some of the things that have always been a little bit ominous.
I'm not sure if I understood exactly what you meant there. Do you mean that it's interesting to see that the Vanguard do have some authority over Guardians?
No, I think it's just the authority over the city, the people. We have a patrol group that we didn't know a whole lot about before, and we're starting to see some items emerge. Which I was just throwing that out there. It's kind of neat that when you were talking about the protectors of the moon, and I think back to the protectors of the city, and the patrol groups that we had.
Where was that mentioned? I don't know if I missed that.
No. There's new items in the Vanguard popping up that just.
Do you mean like flavor text?
Yes.
Right. Oh, I must have missed that. So there's flavor text that implies that there are Guardians that patrol their city.
Yeah, well, we knew about them before, like with Twilight Garrison. It has the police lights on it from D1, and we always were like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." That there's this like RoboCop kind of collective group running around, protecting the people.
So Exos.
Yeah, I mean, well, but we have we have cops or security. We have these neat little security group that we're starting to see a little bit more like.
Like you have like military police.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I really wanted to talk about on this episode was the Drifter. Okay, so the Drifter is called a rogue lightbearer. And he's really the only person who's still going by the term lightbearer, because generally everyone's accepted to be a guardian, and if they're not a guardian, like what are they? Like the Shadows of Yore running around doing their things, but like even them, they're not really considered anything.
Yeah.
And so like the Drifter isn't necessarily of the light, and he's also not necessarily of the dark. And this expansion, we've been getting a lot more about him. Specifically, the Gambit Prime class items each have a little bit, on him. And it was if you read the Gambit Prime, I think it was the Warlock armor. The Drifter tells his story about how him and his crew left the system and found this icy planet. And on that planet, there were these creatures that suppressed light. And so he's basically stranded on this ice planet. And then the Red War happens. The light kicks off, and they all think the other one turned off their light. So it ultimately becomes the Drifter kills them, or the Drifter gets killed by one of them. And so the Drifter killed everyone who was not already dead by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And the Gambit Prime Warlock bond kind of tells the last piece of that story, because we have him on the planet, but we don't know how he's supposed to leave the planet. And so basically, his whole life, his ghost has just been like trying to get the Drifter to be a guardian, trying to get him to do the right thing. And Drifter's always been like, no, I'm doing my own thing. That, like, screw you. This is what I'm doing. And it was at this moment that his ghost, as he called it, snapped. And his ghost is like, I know how we can get out of here. We need to hunt the other 5 ghosts on this planet. So they go and they hunt down the ghosts of the now dead guardians. And they take those ghosts and use their parts to upgrade the Drifter's ghost. Which is insane.
It's pretty messed up, yeah.
Like, let's see. There is an exact line. I have it open here. It is the illicit Reaper bond, you can find it as. So, hey, there's always hope for what it's worth. I'm proud of you. It was the last thing my ghost ever said and the last lie it ever told. The next morning, it was forever changed, but it had a brand new shell of armor reinforced by the guts of 5 other ghosts. Its eye was bright red. It could no longer speak. The blue setting was still there, accessible when we needed it, but the red setting would save our lives. It was kit bashed and jury rigged, but it could replicate the energy of the cages. We froze every creature we came across, brought all of them on board a ship I cobbled together. Now that we were free to explore that ice trap of a planet, it was a trash fire of parts I lovingly dubbed the Derelict, a ship that I added to as I journeyed back towards home. Ghosts could now tap into spectrums of light no one on Earth had yet seen. Spectrums beyond the light. Don't get me wrong, I'm no herald of the dark. This was a kit bash job. So that's kind of huge.
Yeah, and it took that ghost to make that happen, which is freaky that potential was there.
I think it's interesting, the story of how Drifter's ghost got to that point. I think that the relationship between the Drifter's kind of like history is interesting. He never appreciated being a guardian. I don't mean that in the sense that he resented being resurrected, effectively.
Yeah.
And he lived his, he had many lives that he lived before he kind of became the person that we know him as today. And he lived a lot of those lives as if he wasn't risen. And in a way, he kind of he
starved his ghost to a point. If you think about it, if he's not giving the ghost what the ghost wants, basically, the ghost got somewhat desperate. So do you think? Are you setting up that you're saying that maybe there's something more to our relationship with our ghost?
No, I'm not saying that. What I was trying to say, I think, is that in a way, during the period of the Warlords, the Drifter recognized something that I don't think anybody else recognized. If the other Risen had lived their lives in the same way as the Drifter, then actually that period, that Dark Age, would have probably been a lot better.
How so?
Because what the Warlords did is they vied for control of land, whereas and then the Iron Lords kind of built this opposing, more kind of righteous empire, effectively, that said to the Warlords, either you stop what you're doing or we're gonna hunt you down. Well, to an extent, like basically protecting individuals. What the Drifter did is he lived in this town. He effectively defended it in secret. He pretended to be one of them. He brought them food and he allowed the people to hunt them. He used his powers. He used the ability that the ghost had given him, and he didn't go and fight wars. He didn't go and he just cared for this one town, and he had no ambition. He didn't want to unite everybody into this great. Now, in the long term, I don't think that would have been a good strategy, because as soon as you have things like
The Hive.
the Hive and Gaul and Oryx and these other existential threats, you need an army in those situations. You need a group of people who were trained.
Mhm.
But what I do think is that the Dark Age kind of, that ambition wasn't channeled into let's defeat Oryx. That ambition was channeled into let's carve out our own empires, and if a few non-risen get killed in the process, well, that's what it takes to for the greater good. Anyway, so in a way, I feel like the Drifter is a better person than many of the Iron Lords.
Well, the Iron Lords collectively understood that they were more powerful as a pack, and they realized that they were stronger for doing so, and so they were able to do and achieve a lot more things.
Yeah.
So when the warlords were separated and they were hoarding their their power for their collective interest, the Iron Lords realized that, hey, there's a greater threat, and we're all doomed if we don't address this. So we need to unite and share our light with one another. That's where you see the Iron Lords separate themselves effectively, is by sharing their light. That was a big deal for everyone in this whole entire story arc. When Anna Bray was first, dropping pools of light. Did I say that right? Yeah. When she drops pools of light with her golden gun, that was the first time when people realized, hey, this light that you've been gifted is meant to be shared, and you're effectively stronger because of it.
That's fine, but I mean, I don't know why you trace that back to the Iron Lords.
No. I'm just saying, to delineate between what you're trying to say is that there are these groups that were,
But there's another group, like one of the interesting pieces that was added was how the term Guardian seems to come from the Pilgrim Guard,
right?
And so I would argue that I don't think that maybe the Iron Lords did, that they were more similar to Guardians than Warlords, but perhaps there are actually three groups.
Well, they didn't call themselves. Remember, and like we learned, they planted the seed too in the lore that just dropped. There's an item somewhere that tells us, remember, we used to not have classes. We used to not have. So that kind of tells you that at a time when all this was just being figured out, like we used to think, well, what is your, and is he a Titan? Is he a hunter? Is he a warlock? When we were all trying to figure out these things out, they were existing in a time where these definitions and these focuses, these disciplines, these titles, they didn't exist. These things we didn't have, like you said, guardians. And maybe the Pilgrim Guard is the reason for that term. But these terms and titles and definitions came after those struggles.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry, you going on.
I just wanted to say really fast before we get too far down where this is going, that the Iron Banner, according to Seagoth's head, thought we formed the banner to fight the darkness, not ourselves. Just don't bode well is all I'm saying, Gellion. So even though the Iron Banner ultimately ended up fighting the warlords, their original purpose was to be the army, to be prepared to fight Oryx and any other threat that comes along the way. Not Oryx himself, but the threats that will come.
Yeah, the bigger paracausal threats that they became aware of and realized, hey, we're all doomed if we don't unite with one another. Because they had learned that after their wars with the other lords, they had learned that they were able to share their light with one another, and that they were effectively more stronger because of it. And so it became a thing of, we see a vantage. We see a weak spot in the paracausal enemy threat that is within our galactic, environment. We see a way to defeat these guys instead of just surviving. There is a
Well, I
way
mean,
now that we can beat them.
sorry. I
And
agree
so,
with a lot of what you're saying. I don't think that I agree that when you say about sharing light, and you used a good example of Anna Bray sharing light.
mhm.
I don't know if there's any evidence that like the Iron Lords kind of did that.
There's the battle that Scory the Bard basically, she is effectively talking about how they fought in battle with one another. These are the things that I'm not saying that it outwardly says, hey, they dropped the pool of light and then they all picked it up like we do in mechanics. I'm just saying that they realize using their abilities with one another is what
Okay,
helped. It's like when
right.
they
If
picked
that's
up.
no, if
It's like
that's
when
what you're saying,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine. I totally agree with that.
I mean, that was you got to take it from a story arc perspective and what they're building in the narrative in the game. So they're giving you just enough information to show you that these are the things that are pointing towards the direction of the story and how it's grown over time. When we first see light bearers working with one another, is very much the Iron Lords and how,
Well,
like
I
for
mean,
instance, when
even warlords
Efregy
work
throws,
together.
Yeah,
when Efregy,
I don't think I agree with that. Yeah, the warlords, like a fire in the story that the Drifter tells
Yeah,
about Eton,
the
the
man in
warlords
red
come.
came in a team.
Yeah, there's like six of them show up.
Hmm.
It's not, I don't think the warlords did not invent working together.
Well, the Iron Lords.
Sorry, the Iron Lords did not invent working together. The warlords already did that, and they might have had leaders, but so did the Iron Lords. You know,
But
if I definitely think that they fought together for the greater good in a way that the warlords didn't. I think the Iron Lords were definitely a step toward a better world. I just don't think that there is anything that, if the claim is that they shared pools of light, the first reference we know of that is Anna Bray, which is
after the
later.
Iron Lords.
Yeah.
right?
If the claim is that the Iron Lords are
No,
the first group
the
that
claim
works.
is
Yeah, if
the
the Iron
claim
Lords.
is well. Hold on. Let me specifically call it out. So the claim is that the Iron Lords showed that we were stronger for sharing our light, not necessarily dropping pools. The first claim that dropping pools is how we can share our lights was in
But
Bray.
But
early
the
on,
warlords.
early on,
stones.
did the Iron Lords even know about like what their light could do, other than bring them back? Because all the early Dark Age like imagery that we're given for how they fight, they're not saying like, oh, then I cast a golden gun and I blasted them. They fight with like glaives and swords and axes
They
and
imbued
hammers.
they imbued their yes, exactly. They imbued their weapons with the ability. So like for instance, Saladin's axe.
But I just think that I don't think that the warlords, to me, the warlords and the Iron Lords differed in philosophy, but
Yeah.
not necessarily in.
But that's where I'm pointing. That's where I'm
But
pointing
the
at it is
philosophy, not in terms of philosophy of let's work together.
Yeah, not in
terms of-
strategic philosophy.
No, not in strategic. In terms of, it's not okay. Like, civilian casualties are never okay. Killing other people's ghosts is never okay.
Yeah.
These are the things that Fellwinter kind of calls out in some of the new Drifter lore. Those
Yeah.
are the ways
The
that
Dark
the
Horse.
Iron Lords.
yeah. So speak about that. Bring that up right now. That's something that we learned about with Fellwinter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so let me just find the particular card. So,
So
sorry, you go.
no, I was just gonna say because Fellwinter was, as an Iron Lord, was known to have killed Chiton or Khitan, however the hell his name's
Yeah,
pronounced.
Chiton is how.
And so then Jermaine, Wu Ming, the Drifter, Dredge and Hope, however you're gonna call him, climbs up. And also, I want to say something on this. He climbs up Fellwinter Peak, and he finds only Fellwinter there waiting, because Fellwinter only goes out on like the most extreme of cases. He feels like kind of above it all. And he mentions how Dryden used the town of Eton as bait to lure the man in red out and to kill him. And so, like, Fellwinter is like, I don't care. And then he's like, oh, Dryden also killed all the ghosts. Like, he's breaking the Iron Decree. Will you not deal out justice? Will you not go and kill Dryden for doing what he did? So it just seems like Fellwinter is kind of back and forth within the Iron Lord morality. You know, like he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna go out of my way to kill someone's ghost unless they deserve it. Like he specifically defines what he thinks is worthy of listening or not listening.
Right, I know what you mean. Like he's
Well,
he's choosing what to obey as a moral right and justice.
But
I mean, I don't know. Like we don't know exactly what the kind of the oath that the Iron Lords take is, and what the punishment for breaking that oath is.
Right, we didn't ever see any of like the rules behind the Lord.
So it says Dryden had broken the rule of involving lifeless individuals in Iron Lord business, and he had committed the additional sin of inflicting final deaths on the warlords he defeated in an act of bloodlust and rage.
Wait, what? Sorry, I was looking for the exact line of what I was trying to find.
I have the card open. What was the
other thing within the Man with No Name? It's like he's talking to Fellwinter. Is the dark horse of iron for hire? Fellwinter stood and politely motioned for Wu Ming to take his leave. Wu Ming sighed, shrugged, and left the chamber. He had a long climb ahead of him. He's at the top of the mountain. He's on Fellwinter Peak, and he's got a long climb ahead of him. What my mind, and maybe they mean like a long climb down, but to me, that just remember that little Easter egg in Fellwinter Peak?
Yeah.
You had to climb
That's
up
exactly
the mountain.
what I thought of. It's the very first thing I thought of. I thought that was intentional on the writer's part.
Yeah, no, I thought they were like, let's bring up that that little campfire that's up
Yeah.
there for no fucking reason.
Mm-hmm. It's a great view.
It is.
You can see your enemies coming.
unless they're even higher up.
Oh no.
So I guess, I mean, the reason that we got into this whole discussion is
And off topic.
And off topic. Well, it's still kind of related to the
well,
light
it's
and
still
the dark.
topical because we're learning about what. Look, Fellwinter.
We'll have to do a part 2 for next week so Guardian can actually talk his theory and we can talk what I was trying to lead us to, but you guys immediately snapped back onto this.
Sorry,
Well,
it's just
okay.
it's kind of it's a little bit revelatory.
No, it's
a little bit
relevant. It
revelatory.
is. I'm just teasing you.
So point is, Fellwinter killed some people. Like final death killed some people, and that was kind of a no-no. Oh, like what we know now, that's a big no-no, right? And so now we're I don't know. The Man with No Name is pretty. That's pretty cool. I'm just gonna leave it there with that part.
Just basically, Guardians haven't always. They always like act like they're of the light, but they all like choose what is light and what is dark. Toland is like bad juju. Who cares? Like big deal. I mean, eventually Toland goes even further than that, but like big deal, bad juju, whatever. And like other people like Fellwinter is like, I will kill a ghost if I have to. And then there's other people like Honor who's like, we're going to kill the Guardian and capture, which is crazy. They have ghost jail technology.
Well, I mean, I didn't pick the Drifter path, but the Spider has a ghost in a cage. Is that right? Something like that. If you do,
people are saying they want to be able to free the ghost. They should increase the glimmer cap so they can free the ghost.
And how much was it for a Gjallarhorn?
It was like, the Gjallarhorn was 20 exotic engrams. Which, even if you could still carry exotic engrams, is more than the cap that you can carry.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Back in D1, you could get 20 exotic engrams. And that would be crazy if they did something like that, where it's like, oh crap, someone can actually buy that. But it's like a nothing item. It's just a replica that doesn't even work. That'd be awesome.
Right.
That would be awesome.
I would just go.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Sorry. What were we talking about before? I guess. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Which tangent should we go back to?
Well, I was trying to say like how there's different people view the light in different ways still.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Drifter even mentions how
I said Shax was a warlord, and I think that's where we spun out of control. So back to that is that not everybody is who they seem.
Well, Shax, and that's the crazy thing about Shax. So, like, I think it was actually the Drifter who said it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot you used to be a warlord," and Shax is like, "I still am." Like, oh crap, Shax, calm down.
Calm down, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
But also the cool thing is how they call back to saying, you know, hey, back in the day we didn't have classes. You know, it's very much, it's kind of illuminating. It's kind of like reminding us, hey guys, you know, you're talking about hunter this, titan that, warlock this. Those are disciplines and focuses that didn't exist back then. So reminder, think about it. Reminder, you know, these were different times.
So then let's talk about that if I can find it. Do you remember the entry?
I don't. I remember reading it, but I don't remember where it was. There's so much stuff, it's hard to keep track of everything.
Yeah, like, I don't know how to find it either. All the stuff I see is, like, not finding it. Essentially, there is, like, Vanguard. Oh, that's what it was. Was it Solar Intelligence?
Mm-hmm.
There's a Vanguard, like, transcript of the Drifter.
Yes.
Because it was in the Warlock of Nor. Duh.
Mm-hmm. The one where he's talking to someone.
Yeah, where she gets him talking to, like, no one. I think it was, you gotta update the book, dude. It's not in the book.
Oh no, surveillance transcript. Is it that one? No, it's not that one.
It's surveillance.
No, it isn't. It is, but that's not the entry.
But do you see what I mean? The page isn't updated.
No, I know, because I didn't publish all of them, because I only published the ones that I could get, but then I stopped getting them.
But we told you.
I know, but only there's some in there that I still don't think you can get yet.
How do you can get them all? How do you spell it? How do you spell surveillance?
That's not the one.
It is the one. Jesus Christ. Okay. So basically, the header.
People. Okay, I'll send you.
The header. The header calls the Drifter as class multi instead of being class hunter, titan, or warlock. They call it class multi.
Class multi.
Jesus Christ, pain in the ass.
Well, but we were talking about I was saying there's a transcript where the Drifter is kind of talking to no one.
Yeah,
there's only one-sided conversation.
Yeah, he's talking to the emissary.
Yeah, but that isn't this.
Because he's always listening.
Card.
Watching.
This entry that I just linked to, surveillance transcript. I posted it in the Discord chat.
Well, I can't access the Discord chat. I have the thing up.
Shall I post it in Twitch?
I don't care. Either way, they call the Drifter a multi-class guardian. And some people are not trying. Some people, like, read that as, like, he's got access to all the classes. And I guess, is that possible? With his, like, souped up ghost?
Maybe.
Like, maybe he actually can be anything. He can go from using a golden gun to using a well of radiance.
I mean,
because I will kill your ghosts right now.
I don't think. I mean, class multi. I don't know. I don't know what that could mean really. And there's no evidence of. We've never seen him use any supers.
Yeah. Because he rejects the light.
The only time he's been threatened, he summons a captain,
which was awesome, and I want to talk about that. But so when I first read the class multi, my interpretation was that he rejects he rejects the light. He doesn't like his ghost. He literally calls out his ghost as not being a friend and not to trust anyone's ghost.
Mm-hmm.
So if he rejects the light, he's no class. You know, like he might be a titan, he might be a warlock, he might be a hunter. Literally no one has ever seen him cast a super or use any of the abilities. He's just walking around not accepting the traveler's dogma, as he calls it. And so would that not be a suitable answer for multi-class?
Sure. Kind of. What was the armor perk? What was the artifact that enabled us to abandon the super for another grenade?
That was the memory of Fellwinter.
Yeah.
You got double melee and double grenade at the cost of your super.
Yeah. That's what it made me think of right off the bat. Because we also learned a little bit about Fellwinter. And it made me wonder, why would they tell me this? Why are they telling me this?
I mean, like, it's either they give him multi-class or they just give him a class. But I feel like multi-class is to say no one knows what his ghost is capable of. So it can't mean that he can be anything. And if he could be anything, people would be all over that. They'd be like, okay, well, why the hell can he be anything? That's a big deal. So it has to mean, to me, it has to mean that they just don't know what he is.
Right. Another thing, too, is remember when we were able to use the other artifact where we could, bitch slap an enemy and they'd be our friend for a little bit?
That was Teamer. Memory of Teamer.
They were really cool. I actually liked artifacts as a concept.
Yeah, me too.
And it was one of those things where they managed to change they managed to change the gameplay slightly, but not to the same extent as switching subclass or switching your exotic armor.
Yeah.
Okay, I asked this a long time ago. I think it was maybe a year ago. I asked this: would you be okay if Destiny changed things up a bit, and instead of having Hunter, Titan, Warlock, they went to one class, and you could use all the different abilities, but they introduced 2 new playable classes, and so they went from being Hunter, Titan, Warlock to just Guardian. And then they introduced, like, you could play as a Fallen as a second option, or as a third option, you could play as a character of darkness.
You'd be a piece of shit to pick a Fallen.
I don't think I would. I mean, I mean that's like, it's almost like saying, what if Destiny was a puzzle game?
That was the reaction I got, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's so different to what we have that it's impossible to judge whether it would be better. I mean, I like Destiny for what it is.
I'm just waiting for the day that a Fallen does actually get resurrected by a ghost. Because I can see that happening in the near future.
I mean, I would be interested to see that. I don't know.
Would they be the Kell of Kells?
Well, I mean, I think if you had an immortal,
we could just give him a mech suit.
What was that? Sorry.
You can just give him a mech suit.
A mech suit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Civics had a mech suit, and we destroyed that, so that's not going to go well.
Yeah, but it took a while.
But I think what I was going to say was, if you had an immortal, kind of elixir, then they would probably have a massive advantage in terms of being considered the Kell of Kells.
So specifically,
but from the sounds of things, like Fickrell, kind of resurrect himself.
Who?
Is that right?
Fickrell? Yeah.
Fickrell.
Yeah. Fickrell is not dead, like at all. Which
is
like,
kind of. I mean, I know he's not really fallen in the pure sense that Varix would consider it. He's not Elixni in the pure sense that Varix would consider it. But I still think that he, you know, I mean, a lot of like the Fallen have fallen so far that I think the majority of Fallen would happily overlook that.
Yeah, I mean to say specifically when Skolas was claiming to be Kell of Kells and he went to the House of Kings, Varric said the House of Kings would only ever listen to you if the Traveler like came down and chose you. But would that not be a ghost? Like, would that not be like the Traveler chose this Fallen? And so right now, because, you know, it's talking about light, right now we have 3 Elixni factions kind of vying for the Kell of Kells position. So I will actually call it 4, including Fickrell. Even though he's not Kell of Kells, he's like the opposite end of that. So you have Fickrell, who's trying to further destabilize the Elixni culture and make all of them scorn. You have Varix, who is like fed up with no one being able to take the Kell of Kells position. And he's basically saying, we are going back as House Judgment. Follow me, we're going back to the old ways. You have Mithrax, who is saying we need to accept the new ways. We need to be the House of Light and work with the Guardians and prove ourselves worthy of the Traveler. And then you also have Aramis, the ship stealer, who is from the House of Devils and was able to escape during the breakout from Forsaken. She was trapped in the prison of elders. She was able to break out during the whole thing, and she's trying to rebuild the House of Devils. So she's kind of like the wild card here, because you have like your 3 positions: destroy, old way, new way, and then you also have Aramis, who's like, what are you gonna do? But all of them are going for the Kell of Kells position, and I'm excited about that. I can't wait for that expansion. That one, oh my god! If that's gonna be the fall expansion, I'm gonna lose my damn mind. It's gonna be so awesome.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
that deserves to be a big one.
I don't know if I think that will be the next expansion. I feel as though
You shut your mouth.
Hey, real quick, can we talk about the Inquisition?
The Praxic Inquisition.
Yeah.
Nobody expects the Praxic Inquisition.
Well, yeah. I mean, go talk.
Yeah. Tell us your position on the light.
I just think it's neat how right off the bat, Honor, did I pronounce it correctly?
Who knows?
Oh, who knows?
What?
The H is silent. No, I'm just saying that. Okay, so there's very much the Praxic order, and we've understood over the years that the Praxics were very
uppity.
Let me find the term. They built themselves up for the ultimate sacrifice. We have examples in game where they throw their light at their enemies as a Hail Mary to save whatever's left or whatever they can. So we know that Ariana did it in the Hellmouth. We know that Takeo did it. And it seems that, and like I said before, I don't call them fanatical or anything like that. I just think that they see themselves as a righteous group, and they feel it is their responsibility to show the other light bearers how to walk in the light for the greater good at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much by their authority that they give themselves the power to say whether or not you are right. I'm trying to be delicate.
Well, I almost feel as though from if you look at kind of, again, the politics of the tower, they almost replace the speaker in a sense. You know,
Yeah,
like,
Ikora mentioned we'll all be the speaker. Like,
yeah.
it'll be a multifaceted role.
I feel as though the Praxic order is, you know, you can imagine the speaker being kind of in line with a lot of their views.
I feel like Bungie just really needs to like pull the trigger and in like one massive expansion flesh out all these different, like, because it seems like everyone's just like on their own moral high ground. Like, you have the Vanguard, you have New Monarchy, you have Dead Orbit, you have Future War Cult, you have other factions that we haven't like really gotten much of, like Symmetry and the Concordat, and then you also have the Praxic Order. I think the Pilgrim Guard is completely wiped out, right? Pilgrim Guard and Sunbreakers were destroyed in the Red War.
Pretty much, yes. And in fact, in the older items, I think it was the pilgrims that have the. Let me make sure. I think the pilgrims are the ones that have the items that talk about each individual giving their last full measure on different locations within the solar system. Is that the one? Let me see.
But either way, where they I think they should have like kind of like Destiny Civil War, where it's like all these other factions that have been existing in the background actually get fleshed out, and it's like a battle for how the city will be run.
Oh no, that was the first pillars. Sorry.
Like, I think that'd be an interesting direction.
Yeah, definitely, it would be, and then they could elaborate on some of those things and why they are. You know, I would lose my mind if they started fleshing out the Thanatonauts.
Yeah, them too. And like that's another, like, there's so many people looking at the light and saying the light needs to be like this, the light needs to be like this. If you do this, you're against the light. If you do this, you're against the light. But it's like more and more we're learning like light, and that's like we're almost like at the end of our time here. So like it's really, and I guess we're gonna pick this back up next week. We'll like continue this light and dark.
Mm-hmm.
A very old theory from Guardian was like back in Taken King that the light and the dark were the same force, just kind of looked at differently. And I used to agree with that. I ultimately disagreed with that. But now with like new stuff, I'm starting to think like, okay, maybe that's closer to the truth. Not the whole truth, but it's closer to the truth, where it's like there's light and they're dark and they're the same power. They're on this like this spectrum, and like we just use one portion of the spectrum. They use a different portion of the spectrum. It doesn't make it any better or worse than the other. It's just there.
When you brought that up first in chat, it made me go off on a tangent, and I started looking up spectrums of light and color wheels and stuff like that. And then I noticed right off the bat the primary spectral light. There's two graphs, but anyway, the primary spectral lights were purple, a shade of blue, and a shade of orange, and it made me think void, arc, solar. And then in the very middle, when they all intersect, it was either true white or true black.
I think it's I think it's definitely as we just read in that card from the Drifter. His ghost is able to use light beyond the spectrum.
Yeah,
that our ghosts can access.
And like the Drifter said back in the Dark Ages, void light was seen as heretical. Void light was seen as darkness, and there are still people today, like, who are like, "Oh, void light's actually the darkness, and we use that." And it's like, no, it's not. Like,
but is it?
If you imagine, like,
yeah, maybe it is.
One thing that I think's interesting is that, like, we talk about void and arc and solar as being almost like different flavors of light. But our enemies all use void, arc, and solar,
energies,
but they're not using the light. And it is as like, what we've discussed before on this show, the difference between void and void light, and I, yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to learn more over time about.
Yeah, see, like Sean
what
Vertigo
is-
just said, it's void is more dark than the others. Is it?
Yeah,
Is
well,
it though?
I mean, maybe it is, but
Maybe.
like
But is it?
what is the?
Okay, but here, look. Okay.
There's no answer.
It's all how you look at it. Like, for instance, if you thought of solar and the Praxics, they all seem to rally around mainly the solar class. Okay, I'm not going to specifically say that they're all solar because I don't know, but they all seem to just go up in flames in conflagration, and the Sunbreakers do too. But so, what does it take to create solar energy in the realm of material world, right? So it takes an annihilation and a massive nuclear reaction to create that, but that doesn't happen on its own. It happens by consuming the material around it. Void, on the other hand, is almost the opposite. It almost seems as if there was pulled out of nothingness, which is exactly what they describe it as. It's reaching in and pulling it from the layer in between realities and pulling it into the material world and using it and wielding it. But the longer you use it and wield it, the more affected by it you are. And then arc is this magnetic energy that is a in between. It's very much using the gravitational waves and using the combustive forces of material to create a shock wave of electricity. So you have a yin and yang, but you have one in the middle that's held by the two.
But like, even if I can accept that, that doesn't make void darker to me. Just because
it doesn't either.
Just because it's on opposite ends doesn't mean it's darker. And then that's the same thing with the dark, because arguably Eris used the dark to pull us out of Crota's throne, or away from Crota's throne to a different part of Crota's throne when we went to go get the essence of his soul in the Taken King. Like, what are we doing when we become ascendant and we're going into the ascendant challenges? Like, would a Praxic warlock like kill us on the spot if they knew?
Here's the thing, Anon. Here's the thing. We have witnessed like Praxics working with the Nautonaut, in game, in items. We know that there are teams of different philosophies working together to create things that are maybe a little outside the norm. For instance, what was anyway, it doesn't matter. But we know in the lore that these guys, they don't just straight up kill each other. So I think that the Praxics do.
Well, they would want us exiled, I should say.
Yeah, if they had the authority, I think they would.
Yeah. They're like, he's becoming ascendant, going into the ascendant realms. We need to kick him the hell out.
Yeah. So thereby our own rule and government and the consensus of the people and those that are in power, we prevent any one philosophy from emerging as the greatest and most authoritative. Did I say that right? Authoritative? Authoritative? I don't know.
Good enough. All right. Well, that feels like a good place to leave it off on, and we'll pick it up on the 31st of March. 9:15.
Sounds good.
March 31st. Excuse me, everyone. Anything you want to end on?
No, I think we've covered quite a lot. I'm interested to see what Guardian has to say when he rejoins us.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I think that's a pretty big deal.
Asshole getting sick. How dare he? Like, he should know better.
I just want, real quick, I just want to point out, I think great job on Bungie's behalf for making us all doubt our decisions, whether we decided to align with the Drifter or just align with me.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I cheated. Like, I looked ahead and saw what everything had to say, and then I was like, okay, so the Drifter is the actual, like, better moral choice. Because even when
But
you
is
finish,
it-
even when
but
you
is
finish
it-
the Vanguard side, it's just like, Honor's like, oh, yeah, he's not that bad, is he? He's just sad. And you just feel like an asshole for hurting him further. It's like he actually trusted you, and you just hurt him further. And it's like, oh, but he's actually not a bad guy.
Well, that cutscene with the emissary is really. I mean, that's
That
just,
cutscene with the emissary, that bothers me because he summoned a taken captain. Are those the medium blockers or the large blockers? I think they're the medium, actually.
Yeah, I think they're the medium.
Either way, he summoned a medium blocker with one fucking moat.
But he'd already banked quite a few. You just hadn't seen them.
That's not how it works.
It is. It is. No, it is.
No, it's not.
It's not how it works for us.
That's bullshit.
He just has them. He has them. No, he's got like when you want
He has
to
tier
somebody,
6
you have like a
armor.
bucket
Yeah, tier 6
bucket.
armor.
over a door. He's got a bucket over a door filled with 9 motes. Okay.
That's hilarious.
I am not
And
following.
then-
He
No,
is a
you-
cheater. That's why he is always saying. He's always saying.
I mean, he is a cheater.
If you
clearly.
choose the Vanguard, he'll call you a snitch at the beginning of the game. He's like, you might be a
Yeah.
snitch, but I still need those motes. And it's like,
He keep
how much does it cost you to summon a knight? Is it 1 mote for a goblin, 1 mote for a knight, 1 mote for a captain? So you're taking let's say that we summon like 10 bosses or 10 taken across that whole thing. He's banking for himself 90 motes. That is 90 taken that he is creating.
Yeah. I mean, this is just capitalism. There's nothing. Like, he's running the program. He can do what he likes. He's got a monopoly on Gambit.
And that should not be allowed.
He could charge. I mean, he's gonna stop
Shaxx
him.
doesn't have a monopoly on the Crucible. That's why Saladin's there. Why aren't they stepping in?
Who's they?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Big
exactly.
brother.
This is what
Yeah,
happens
exactly.
when you have an
Who is
oligarch.
the who telling who what to do?
Honor needs to make her own version of Gambit. That's the only way. That's the
would
only
be a
way it'll
really-
be fair.
It'll be trials.
Really praxic kind of version.
It'll be Praxis trials. It'll be the trials of the Praxic.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. I was gonna ask what that would be like, but let's not. All right. If you want to stay up to date on the show, you should follow us on Twitter. It is at Loose Canon Show on Twitter, at Loose Canon Show, just like the name here. Just all one word. We're going to get some panels. We have a name now. We have a live soon screen. We're going to get some panels so you can find the Twitter, our Twitters, the podcast. I don't know. Maybe like memes. I don't know. Maybe. I have a panel for Google Doc just filled with memes.
That sounds like a great idea.
Right? That's what will set us apart from the other shows.
Sick memes.
Just a bunch of fucking memes. Alright, well, bye.
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 Guardian didn't say bye because he's an asshole.